out how to
Welcome to the very first episode of Get Fresh with Your Feline Week, where we are joined by a super special, very special guest today that's going to be speaking with you guys all about the reasons behind why feeding your cats a better diet is important.
Joining us right now is literally the most world-renowned pet health advocate on our planet. He is a filmmaker, an award-winning vlogger, a New York Times best-selling author twice over, the creator of Planet Paws, the world's largest pet health page on social media, blockbuster, TED Talks, public speaker. There is not enough time for his accolades. All to say, this man's passion is to help make this world a much better place, a more informed place for all of us pet parents. Rodney Habib, our dearest friend from the North. I cannot believe you are here with us tonight.
Thank you so much.
Yay! Listen, I am so excited. Also, I wish I hope my mother's tuning in so she can hear that intro, because like maybe that'll make her like finally proud of me for what I do. I'm just joking. My mother's probably very proud of me. Listen, I am so stoked to be here. I am finally on the Crazy Cat Lady show. I watch you guys all the time. I try not to troll you in the comments too much, but I am the biggest fan. Awesome. I am the biggest fan of you guys of all time history, and I'm so pumped to be here. And what an incredible week, the Get Fresh week. Like, how did this even start? Look, now I'm the interviewee. Like, where did this passion even come from? Where did this come from?
It was literally just like a month ago, and we were asked by Steve's Real Food to come on their page and talk about fresh food, and we did. And it's like we talk about feeding your cats a lot, but it's only in tidbits and little bits of information, short videos, things like that. And when we got going, it was like, this feels good. And
it was so exciting.
Yeah. And the audience was like, you guys are just on fire when you talk about food. And I was like, let's make a whole week of it and bring on all the masters. And so
it was like a pipe dream, right? And now, right now, we are sitting here with Rodney Habib. The reality of it is just such an incredible thing and such a gift, I think, to all of us in the cat community, especially because I feel like all the knowledge, experience you have, the way that you go about empowering us as pet parents, has changed our lives. Yes. And to be able to share tonight with you is amazing.
You've been a mentor of ours since we were little kids.
Listen, oh, that was good. Oh, I love it. I love Dr. Becker, I hope you heard that one. listen, I everything, first of all, thank you so very much. And, I told you guys when we were backstage, I am your biggest fan and biggest advocate. What you guys do, nobody does. You are two incredible, aside from incredible content creators, some of the most creative people that I know. You are the two kindest, and you are the two greatest humans I know. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. You are two genuinely incredible human beings, and what you do and your relentless work and the amount of creation that you do and the lives that you guys keep putting out, just to inspire people, is inspiring to all of us. And we are all watching from wherever we are. We were in Portugal, opening up our phones, showing people the Crazy Cat Lady segments in Portugal to the Portuguese. Like, that's Lionel, the man who's raised the oldest lived dog in the world, who has a whole herd of cats that he's also trying to raise. We put him onto your podcast. People love you globally. Look at the comment section blow up when you guys are here. So the honor is all mine to be here. Let me just tell you, and I'm excited to talk.
We blame you for inspiring us to be content creators.
Absolutely, 100%.
So thank you. It's totally
let's stop all the mush and get to the good stuff. Let's start discussing why, Rodney. So the cat community is as we have seen, as we've grown in the cat community, we've noticed that being in the pet health community, which primarily dogs, we've noticed that there's just a lag. Like it's not growing as fast when it comes to fresh feeding. And so that's the inspiration for this week, is to start to move that needle and start to make a difference in the world of cats, which is harder than it is with our dogs. But let's talk about some of the reasons. And I don't want to like instill fear in anyone, but I do want to talk about some of the very important reasons why feeding a better, fresher diet is so important for our kitties as well.
Yeah, this is such an awesome question pertaining to, I think, like every living being on the planet, right? I mean, we know that when you're looking to longevity, diet is like one of the biggest pieces. It's not the only piece, but it's a massive piece, right? When we broke it down in the Forever Dog, the DOGS strategy that Dr. Karen Becker like masterfully put together, D for diet, O for optimal movement, G for genetics, and S for environment, stress and environment, right? So diet is a massive, massive component of it. And when you have the diet right, look at a little thumbs up now, pop and see the...
Yeah. We have it too.
These new hand gestures are going to be I love them in the death of me at the same time. Hopefully the conversation is always perfect when I get these little hand gestures to pop up everywhere. But in saying that, diet is such a critical point. And the hardest part about it, I think, guys, and the reason why it's so difficult, especially in the cat space, is the perception of food. What are we talking about when we're actually talking about food? What is the perception and how do we see it? I talk about this all the time. It's always baby steps and movement with people, but there was this famous study that was done in the United Kingdom with children where they like held up signs to kids, right? And they were showing them like hamburgers, and all the kids in the room were like, that's a hamburger, right? And they showed them apples, and they could pick out an apple. But then when they got to like avocados and eggplants and kale, like dead silence, right? But they knew hamburgers, they knew fries, and guess what? They flashed a bowl of dry pet food, and all the kids in the classroom were, that's pet food. Like, so we're pre-programmed as kids onto the perception of what food is going to look like. And now along come these two incredible humans, Jay and Adrian, the crazy cat ladies, and they're trying to talk about a different way of feeding. And now you got to break down those barriers, right? Now you got to change the perception of the audience to help them understand, to have that aha moment. And man, that can be tough.
Yeah, it can. I mean, and it was, we talk about it all the time, that it was for us in many ways too. It was like, what do you feed your cats other than cat food? Of course, like that's just right. That's what you feed.
We're going to be diving into the whole fear around it, because I think people, my cats are picky. They're scared of a different diet, the budget, all of those things we're going to be getting into this week. But I think for me, one of the important things because I told Jay she was going to kill our cats when she wanted to switch over to a raw diet. That's how scared I was. I did not realize, though, really what I was already feeding our cats, right? When it comes to kibble. And I think that that's something that needs to be looked at, and there's no better person on this earth to kind of go into.
Man, we had a bag of Meow Mix in our trunk. An open bag.
Right. Like, so shout out to Beth, who says, hello, Rodney. Shout out to you, Beth. Hello to you. My why, right at the beginning, the why that we talk about, this guy's my why, right? What's going to happen to like a lot of first-time pet parents, if this is the first time that you're hearing this, and I'm so grateful that you're here, and we're launching the week. There's going to be some incredible guests, like some of my favorite people. Like I'm so excited to tune in. I'm so pumped. I don't even want to go about Susan Thixton, like my idol and my hero who birthed me and started me, who's coming on this week. I'm so friggin' excited about it. But like, you're always going to be in a moment as a first-time pet parent. And I pray to God it doesn't happen to you, but typically what usually will start to shift your perception and get your butt into gear into just learning a little bit about pet nutrition is the day that something terrible happens. It's when the piano falls from the sky. Oh my God, what happened? How did it happen? I need to know more. And then when you start to dive deeper into, let's say, food and nutrition, oh my gosh. First of all, it's the most overwhelming thing in the world for a first-time pet parent. You guys know that. Google like anything, like broccoli, and then half your Google feed will say that it's going to kill you. It'll bloat you. You'll have terrible gas. If your cat eats it, it's an absolute disaster. And then you have another half of the panel that says, oh my gosh, it's fantastic. Sulforaphane, anti-cancer, longevity, and so on and so forth. And it can be so confusing for today's pet parent, but you're more inclined to start researching when something terrible happens. And I hope it doesn't happen. My Y scribbles 2007, the most famous North American pet food recall of all time, where his kidneys were destroyed because I was buying vet food, right? Because, you know, I wanted to pay top dollar because I wanted the research, I wanted the science, and I didn't, you know, I wanted to feed the very best so my cat could be with me as long as possible. How long as possible? Do you guys know what the average longevity rate right now, the average age before death in the United States of America is today? If you had to guess,
12 to 15, isn't it? For indoor,
it's dropped. It's actually dropped. It's what's crazy is from 2013 to 2018, we were moving forward. And then after 2019, there's been a small, it's not like a massive, but there's been a small decline. So we're actually moving backwards. It's the same thing with humans. Over the last couple of years, longevity is also moving backwards, right? We have the most cancer of all time in people under 50, but that's another story. The average right now is 11.3 years in the latest study. And that was to come out of Banfield with the 1,000 clinics that you guys have in the United States. 11.3 years, man. That's not very long.
No, I mean, you think about the longest living cats and how many, even our cats, right? They weren't even at half their life, or they were just at half their life at 11 years old. So that's really sad.
Well, and one of the
really sad. Sorry, go ahead, Adrian.
Just that this is why, and there's no one better to speak to this than you, because I feel like, especially when it comes to cats, everything's fine until it's not. And that you're right, that's what kicked our butts into gear. With our Scotch, with his kidney disease, and God forbid, but that's why this week is so important, because the proactive power of food, like you said, it's not the entire equation for longevity, but it is such a foundational part of it.
Right. Yeah. And with the ingredients that are in, unfortunately, that you as pet parents, I mean, we're shielded from, we don't really even know. You see the awesome commercials, as Adrian talked about on TikTok today, like love them like family, feed them like family,
yeah.
Science, and all of this stuff. And we think, and then you see the beautiful pictures on the front of the bag or cans, and you're like, this is going to be the best thing, especially if you're like, a lot of people, they think if they're paying high dollar, they're getting high quality. And so they pay the high dollar like you did for really good food. And you don't understand until something sometimes goes wrong, like what happened with Scribbles, that the ingredients are not regulated, and they're not always the best option, especially for obligate carnivores, especially for desert animals, especially for our kitties.
Yeah, I'm looking at Patty's comment. This is my indoor cat, is 17-year-old, which is incredible. You're already past the curve, right? One of the biggest questions that we have when we have our everything, our cats and our dogs, is I want you to be with me forever. And so what does that entail? And how long is that, right? So the question for the cat is, if the average US cat is living to be, let's say, 11.3 years, and globally it's not any more fantastic. And then you look at the longest lived cats in the world, which we've talked about all the time, Jake Perry, who raised the Guinness World Book of Record twice. He broke the record twice with not only a 34-year-old cat, but a 38-year-old cat. We were talking earlier about Moggy, 39, right? Unofficially in the United Kingdom. Those are the conversations we need to be having, right? Like, I don't want my cat to, I want my cat to live as long as possible. I want him to beat 39. But first, let's set a benchmark. Obviously, we know that we talk diet's a big factor, and there's many other factors. But if if that's our benchmark, if my benchmark is, okay, the oldest lived cat in the world is 39, let's say arguably 39, let's say if we stick with the Guinness World Book of Records, 38, that's my goal. What is the diet that I need to go on to achieve that goal? All right. So when we're breaking food down, it's really important today, that we have these categories that we're now labeling. We talk about it all the time in the Forever Dog. We talk about it all the time on social media. You'll hear us saying it all the time. We've changed the verbiage of the way that we speak because of what's called the NOVA classification system, which means when you're going into a store to buy a food, you can buy it in 3 levels: ultra processed, processed, and minimally processed. Now, I don't need to tell you which is better, because you can ask your mom and you can ask your grandmother, and they're going to tell you. We all kind of instinctually know that eating minimally processed foods is going to be better than eating ultra processed foods. It's no different for your cats, right? So now that you're starting, now that it's your first day inside of a pet store, and you're saying, okay, today's day one, and I want to get on the right path, there's mountains and mountains of research to show that ultra processed pet foods is not the way that you want to go if you're looking for longevity. Sorry, I hijacked the whole conversation with that one question, but let's just start right away with pet food. What category can you be in? And obviously, minimally processed foods, according to science, your pets will go a lot further in life.
Can you speak to the feedback many of us cat parents get when we say that we want to feed a fresh food, and then it's like, no, we feed the kibble, feed the canned food,
the ultra processed.
Right? Why? And tell us why it is when science shows us that less processed food is better.
Of course.
Why does
so I love this.
Show
I love this question, right? I love this question. So this is crazy. But for the longest time, there's always been the argument in science, only in animal nutrition. In human nutrition, it's completely upside down in animal nutrition. In human nutrition, your doctor will tell you, avoid eating as much ultra processed food as possible and eat as much minimally processed food as possible to live a long, healthy life. In animal nutrition, it is upside down, where you are told, either as a young student in vet school, or unfortunately, when you go to your clinic, because that's how the veterinarian was trained, avoid feeding or telling your client to eat minimally processed foods and eat as much ultra processed food as possible, because it's science. It's crazy, right? But it's changing, and it's changing because of microbiology. So to answer your question, Adrian, like years ago, we didn't have microbiology. There was microbiology, but not in the animal space. I mean, Animal Biome just is literally now, as we speak, coming out with an index of what a healthy microbiome should look like for a cat. So your poor veterinarian didn't have enough research then, because obviously the pet food manufacturers will come in. We expect the vets to be like dentists and surgeons, and they've even got to be psychiatrists to humans to talk them off the ledge. We expect so much of the beautiful veterinarian. The last thing that we can throw on their lap is like, okay, now let's make you a board certified veterinary nutritionist overnight. They're too overloaded. So they're getting their research from the ultra processed pet food industry. So that was the only thing that they knew. Now, when us 2.0 pet parents, right, who say, hey, we want more, and we start asking more questions, and we say, hey, let's either take the nutrition on ourselves, or let's come out of the ultra processed food and get into minimally processed food, this is going to freak your veterinarian out, because he doesn't know if the diet is balanced, right? Because you can cause a lot of damage with an unbalanced diet. And he doesn't know what on earth you're putting together when you're putting a concoction for your pet. So it's really important for the pet parent, because you want that veterinarian to be your teammate, your coach, so your cat will live forever. You have to have your vet's backing, and you will if you know how to talk to your vet, right? But you just can't walk into your vet today and say, hey, man, I'm making raw food at home. My cat's going to live a long time, and don't you dare talk to me about ultra processed food, because you're going to freak your vet out. So it's really important that you get the verbiage first and then approach your veterinarian.
I love that. Do you know so we just did some skits at the Thriving Pet Expo a couple months ago or something about how to talk to your vet, because I feel like that is one, when it comes to like nutrition, as we were talking to BK Pets this morning, when it comes to like nutrition and then the medical field and the holistic field or the natural field, that it's always at odds. And one of the reasons on our end is that we don't know how to have those open conversations instead. And I'm the worst. Like, I literally fired like 11 vets. Better. So yeah, I'm better now. I'm better now that I'm like understanding more. But yeah, when I first started, like I was like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. You're fired. Like just like.
It's tough, man. Yeah, it's hard, because we joke around about this all the time. Religion, politics, and nutrition, people will go to war over them, right? Like friendships will end. You want to ask the most polarizing question in the world? Just post, hey, what do you feed your cat? Tell me how that ends up for you, right? Like holy World War III, right? It's nutrition's polarizing, but it's the same thing in the human space. Listen, open up your Google newsfeed and Google what's the best type of diet for me. Tell me how that works out. Carnivore, Mediterranean, vegetarian, pescatarian, vegan. It's endless. It's endless, right? And what we know, so we do have basics when it comes to nutrition. Your vet will appreciate you when you can have those conversations with the doctor and you're like, look, Dr. Jones, here's some science that I'm seeing, right? I find your vet is way more receptive when you approach your veterinarian and you say to him, I would really love to be on a minimally processed food diet. Your vet will be way more receptive than when you label something like, okay, let's make it a raw or a freeze dried. There's nothing wrong with those terms, but believe me, your vet will be way more on board with you when you're like, I'd like to come off of ultra processed foods and feed a minimally processed diet. And if you don't know how to do it, here's some things, or here's some research that I found. Man, it goes a long way with a veterinarian.
Yeah, that's great.
Yes,
that's actually
empowering.
That is empowering. So say, Rodney, we're sitting here with a fairly new cat parent, or a cat parent that's just been doing the same thing for a really long time, right? And feeding the whatever kibble, like we were, whatever kibble we could afford at that time. I mean, us as cat parents, we tend to be on more of a budget, if you will, because cats are like potato chips. So, once you pop, you can't stop, and they just end up coming in, and we end up with multiple cats, right? So most of us have more than just one cat. So feeding them on, being able to afford the diet, a good diet for our cats, can be difficult. Now, we are going to discuss that with Emma Rutherford this week too, and she's going to give you a ton of tips.
Love Emma.
Just improve that bowl. But let's talk about maybe some of the ingredients that cat parents should look for in the bag if they're just going to say upgrade the kibble, or look for something that's going to be a little bit less damaging for their kitties' overall well-being.
Yeah, this is such an awesome question, right? And the way that technology is morphing, it's making it easier for people that are on a budget, right? I think when you can learn a little bit about pet food, I love that Emma's coming on. Huge fan of Queenichi over in the United Kingdom. Like, you guys have a star-studded list that's coming up. I'm just so excited for you guys. I think with the way that technology is advancing today, food costs are coming down, right? What's really important for the pet parent, we talk about this a lot with like Steve Brown and Susan Thixton, when you get into like the nitty gritty of pet food, is what is the cost per calorie, right? Like nobody ever does that. Nobody ever flips around a package of pet food. Normally you may look at the ingredient panel, and you're going to look at like all the pictures and all the colors, but then you're going to see these numbers, right? Like kilocalories per cup. Like how many units of energy am I giving my pet when I feed them this actual cup of food? No matter what it's coming in, whether it's coming in kibble, canned, freeze dried, there's always going to be that calorie counter there. And the first thing that a pet parent can do, if they really, really want to, if they're on a budget and they want to manage their food properly, figure out first and foremost, the food that I'm going to align myself with, am I getting the best bang for my buck? Meaning, am I getting, like, when I'm comparing brand A and brand B, and let's say they look similar as far as ingredients go, let's say they're good ingredients. We'll talk about bad ingredients in a second. Who is offering me, if the ingredients are somewhat similar, who's offering me more calories or good calories per cup at a cheaper unit? And if you can figure that out, you save a lot of money, man. One of the things that you're going to see in a grocery store when you go buy cat food, okay, you've got these brands, and brands are smart. They know that you're a price conscious consumer. So when you have two packages on a shelf, one is $5, one is $6, they look the same, most people are going to grab the $5 bag. And guess what? They have no idea that when they turn it around, normally the cheaper bag means you have to feed more cups, normally. And so you might be saving $1 on that ultimate purchase, but in the long run, you're going to be spending a lot of money on the multiple cats you have in the household because you didn't know, the manufacturer didn't inform you that you should be looking at the cost per cup when it comes to units of energy. And if you can figure that out, man, you will be rocking and rolling. And hopefully I know Emma can knock that out of the park this week for you guys. So just something to tee up with your audience. Now, when it comes to ingredients, there are some key ingredients that you really want to be careful, right? Like we have a dirty dozen list in the Forever Dog. We've posted online so you can get the dirty dozen list anywhere you want. It's not rocket science, but there are some ingredients that every day, I love the Environmental Working Group. They're just an incredible group in the United States of America who have I have just the biggest man crush on them because they just make our environment safe for us and they give us free information, and they always have information on dogs and cats in there. The Environmental Working Group recently found that like one ingredient, let's just say it's called titanium dioxide. It's a genotoxin. It will actually destroy genes, in your body, destroy cells within your body. Man, that is in so many brands of cat food. And the argument is when you talk to the pet food manufacturer, yeah, but we're just giving you a little bit to whiten the food. We want it to look good for you, right? Well, it's long-term consumption that's going to cause massive, massive issues. So if you can understand that pet food is being made for you to look appealing to you, not so much your cat, to you, the colors that are being used, red dye number 5, red dye 40, yellow dye number 5. There's so many spectrums of dyes and colors in there. These are things that are banned in the human space. If you can educate yourself on some of these keywords, now when you see 2 bags for $5, you'll have a better knowledge of which one might be the better grab when you're looking to grab a value, when you can also not only familiarize with cost per calories, but harmful ingredients that you may want to stay away from. That was really long-winded. Like we could talk, we could do this for 4 hours breaking it down. I just got to keep myself calm because there's so many things I want to jump on.
Well, I have to throw in here that it is in fact not, at least in the States, these dyes are not banned in human consumption, because we had some friends come over, I don't know, a couple months ago, and I was running out, and Adrian was like, they like sodas, grab sodas. I was like, what kind of soda? And they said grape and orange or something like that. And so I just grabbed some soda, didn't read anything. I don't drink soda, so I didn't care what they drank, right? And I just I brought it and I brought it home, and then Adrian looks at she goes to drink one, and she looks at the bag. On the
red
can,
40,
and
yellow,
it's red 40
yellow 5 in the same beverage.
in the same beverage.
Yeah.
I was like, really?
Yeah. And be careful out there too, because eggnog has is it Carrageenan or Carrageenan to you?
So I say Carrageenan, but so many people say Carrageenan. It's like tomato, right?
We're with you.
We're Canadian. I'm Canadian. I just go with it.
Yeah, there you go.
Sad,
there you go.
Yeah.
But also one of those ingredients that is still in a lot of wet cat foods and the canned
and
foods,
a lot of human foods,
and also in human foods. But in our cats, right? Like, I mean, this is a whole meal. It's not just like a dip that we dip something in or something like in the humans. This is we are the only ones that are telling our cats what to eat. We're the only ones that are the voice for our cats and what they eat. And when Carrageenan is one of those known carcinogens, right? Can you speak to Carrageenan a little bit?
So, gosh, and it's so interesting because this is such a debatable ingredient. I can't tell you, like, some will argue that there's natural sources and there's toxic sources, like these emulsifiers that are put in this food, like just the whole category alone of emulsifiers, right? When you're looking at these type of ingredients, the question that the pet parent has to ask himself is, why is it there? Like, I'm just reading in, like, I always got my eyes in the comment section. I'm reading Blue Jay 64 that says that I love that Vet RX food has powdered cellulose, right? Which is sawdust. I mean, so true. I love that the people in your comment section are also 2.0 pet parents, right? Because they're educating themselves on some of these ingredients, right? But they're always there to serve a purpose in the eyes of the manufacturing, right? So, I mean, if just powdered cellulose itself, it's a prebiotic. It's low cal, and it's there to somewhat feed the bacteria in the GI system, right? If you can avoid. And I'll tell you, there's so many arguments towards Carrageenan. I can't. I've been in this debate about 3 or 4 times. Do I avoid it? I do. I try to stay away from it. I know people are looking for like seaweed sources right now online, and people are trying to find all natural sources. It's definitely something that is not needed per se when you're looking at your cat's overall nutrition spectrum. It's there to make the food functional. But if you can really familiarize yourself with this entire category of these products that are required to keep foods either shelf stable or to look appealing for you, because the colors that we just alluded to, why are the colors there? The colors are there to give you the perception that you're looking at like meats. So red is there, so it looks like you're feeding your cat steak. You know, when you buy like pieces of kibble and you've got red, you got green, you got orange. Each one is to give you the perception. The manufacturer puts it there, not for the cat, but for you. So when you see the orange, you're like, oh, I'm giving my cat carrots. You see the green, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm giving my cat like peas or kale or whatever you want to perceive it to be. These are manufacturing techniques to get you, the consumer, to buy their product. You got to be really careful of those things, because man, you can get caught up really quickly on visualizing these foods, and they can be causing more harm than good.
Well, let's talk a little bit about grain-free. When it comes to, I actually just had a DM today that said, or it was a comment or something that said, my vet said that I shouldn't feed my cat a grain-free diet any longer because cats were coming down with heart disease. Now, I thought that was a whole dog thing and that had already been debunked, and cats weren't involved in it. But this is a vet telling one of our followers this.
So, you know, this is such a touch and go conversation, because when, you know, I just posted this, not for me, but for the community on my personal page pertaining to grain-free, because grain-free right now it had a plummet after the whole DCM scandal in 2018, which has been proven according to science right now to not be factual. There's so many studies coming out on both sides saying, we're seeing something small. Oh no, we're not seeing anything. And it's been going back and forth, right? Welcome to the issues of ultra processed foods, right? When you're debating what is the best type of ultra processed food, you can kind of see, the 2.0 pet parents can be like, man, it's ultra processed. Like, this is kind of crazy that we're debating this, right? Like, if I was buying a hot dog, which is ultra processed, I'm not comparing hot dog to kibble, but hey, man, they both fall under the ultra processed category.
Right.
If I was to tell you, look, you're eating a vegetarian hot dog, a vegan hot dog, a grain-free hot dog, or a meat-based hot dog, man, it's still ultra processed, right? So there's still a giant issue there. Where does the term grain-free come from? The term grain-free comes from, which is genius marketing. Originally, they would say, well, you know, people don't want fillers, people don't want rice, people don't want corn, and so on and so forth. So look, we've created you this beautiful grain-free package, and it gives the perception of more meat. Right. So when I'm buying, if I buy grain-free from my pet years ago, I was like, well, I'm giving my cat more meat. He's an obligate carnivore. I don't want to feed him rice. I want to feed him more meat. Well, you're going to be heartbroken when you find out that your package of grain-free and your package of grain-based product are both going to have the same amount of carbohydrates, starch levels, right? Well, why should you be concerned about that? Well, let's pull out our first little sheet of paper here. The first study that Rod wants to show. Look, we know right now in science, when you look at this was in Vet Practice News. Oh, look at this technology. Listen, when you're on the Crazy Cat Lady show, man, you get technology like this. I didn't know you were going to pull this up on the Jumbotron. This is the best day of my life. Shout out to Rachel Facero. So look, this is the largest case control study about diabetic cats to date. And what these researchers found, I mean, look, it's right there in the headlines. Cats eating dry food have an increased risk for developing type 2 diabetes. It's why anybody who's ever had a cat who's had diabetes, who's been subjected to insulin, who switched their cat over to canned food, and then all of a sudden, miraculously, they're off of insulin because now they brought more moisture, more protein, and lower carbohydrates in the diet, cat seems to get better. Okay, so why do I bring up the study and the purpose of the study? Because if you look at the science right now and it's talking about refined carbohydrates being an issue, whether it's grain-free or whether it has grain in it, the carbohydrate levels are going to be the same. Why? Because they're not giving you more meat. They're giving you either more potatoes, more peas, more lentils, in order to get kibble to stick like a ball. right? Imagine you're making cookies. It will not stick without this scientific term called the Maillard reaction, where you're going to caramelize the protein and the carbohydrate. Imagine creme brulee, delicious, right? They blast it with a torch right in front of you. It's like sugar on your lips. That reaction is delicious, the Maillard reaction. Like chefs know that when they make it. But man, let me tell you how harmful that can be for you. If you ever Google the word advanced glycation end products, AGEs, that will age you immensely. Delicious for a moment, but not eating it long term. Well, that is what ultra processed food kibble is. It's a constant Maillard reaction. You need to get protein to bind with kibble to form into a perfect ball. And unfortunately, the pet food manufacturer, without starch, without carbohydrates, can't get the kibble to stick. So whether it's grain-free or non-grain-free, you're getting the same amount of carbohydrates. So those people who come back and say, yeah, but what about those heart studies? You know, I've been reading that avoiding, peas and potatoes and so on and so forth is going to be more beneficial for the heart. There's not a single proven study out there right now that can show that. When you're dealing with ultra processed pet foods, right? All of its minutia, all those little tiny arguments are minutia when you're feeding that type of food spectrum, because there's mountains of science that tells you whether it's grain-free or not. You shouldn't be dabbling with ultra processed pet foods.
Yeah, well, and you think about the amount of carbohydrates and starches in any kibble. I mean, we're talking like 40 to 60, sometimes 80%.
Yes.
And then you're looking at obligate carnivores, our little feline friends in our homes, and we're feeding them the majority starch, even if it says, right? Even if it says first ingredient is meat, which every bag says now, right? Probably Meow Mix even says first ingredient is meat.
Yes, they do.
Right. So it makes us think that we're feeding a good food because the first ingredient is meat, whereas all the other ingredients are carbohydrates and starches, which convert into sugar, which cause weight gain, which cause obesity, which cause diabetes, which it causes inflammation, which causes all the things
of stuff
pets don't need. And now, I mean, we're dealing with so many epidemics. You know, whether it's diabetes is an epidemic, obesity is an epidemic in our felines. It's kidney disease, hyperthyroidism. There's so many things that you can just go ahead and like guess that your cat at some point is going to have one of these things because they're so prevalent in the cat community that we have to start looking at diet, right? Like
the fear factor that we're going to be talking about with Dr. Judy, I think that's something that kind of slapped me across the face. Was you're talking about what's going into kibble, these ultra processed foods, what these starches and carbs. For obligate carnivores, quality protein is so important, and yet here we are. Everyone has that story about my cat that lived to be 20 years old, eating Meow Mix every day of their life. Everyone has Louis that smoked and drank every day of his life and lived
genetics, impeccable
right?
Genetics, yeah.
Perhaps, but I think that it is worth going into these ingredients. When you think about the majority of your cat's diet being one food that has all of these things in it, taking the time to explain what that is as far as nourishing our companion animals helps alleviate the fear of moving over to a fresh food. Because now I'm recognizing how scary some of this stuff really is that happens in a rendering plant. Right. The animal digest that is sprayed on these kibbles, the addictive qualities of these foods.
Did I ever tell you that my dad worked at a rendering plant?
You did, and your grandfather started up with a pet food company where you guys learned as a team together. And I do remember those stories very well. Yeah. You know, it's so, my gosh, there's like so many directions that we can go in, and there's so many, like, I try to think is when I'm as a pet parent, like the 1.0 pet parents today that are listening, shout out to Dr. Lori Kozier. I just love it.
She told me to ask you a question.
You got like a bunch of incredible veterinarians. You got Rachel Frisaro, content creators, Shayna. Like, you just got a whole bunch of incredible people in this comment section. Like, it just lights my heart up, man. There's so many ways that we can tackle this. And, you know, like, as far as the rendering, the rendering facility where your father worked, like, when people, this is rendering, by the way, is a very controversial topic. I don't know if you guys ever seen this little tiny post that I put up when it came to the National Renders Association. I remember having a conversation. So if you are new and you have no idea what a render is, we consume, let's say, so much meat a year, and 50% of the animal that humans consume, well, what on earth happens to the other 50%, right? So I remember when I was interviewing the National Renders Association, and by the way, these stats are way higher now. This was like from 2017, so they're way higher now. 10.2 billion animals are slaughtered in America each year. This is kind of like this is a very big reason why, my animals are 100% obligate facultative carnivores. I myself gave up meat just to try to help with some of these statistics. Approximately 50% of the animal is considered inedible, as we said. So it has to go to a renderer's facility. Now, these renderers will take this garbage meat, because if they didn't, according to renderers, within 4 years, you would fill up every major landfill in America. That's because they collect 56 billion pounds of raw material every single year. Like, it's crazy, right? And then you watch kind of how that gets ground up, and then you watch its way go into pet food, right? And then there's so much controversy here. When you talk to like nutritionists, are like, well, what on earth are we supposed to do with all this meat? It's got to go somewhere, right? And is that really the type of meat that people want to be nourishing themselves on? So that's a big open debate. But when we were blessed to have you on the Inside Scoop, and many 1.0 pet parents, this was the biggest thing for them, right? Hey, I'm going to listen to the Get Fresh with Your Felines this week, and then I'm going to try to go and feed my pet something that's no longer ultra processed, and I'm going to go to minimally processed. And then he walked away and he won't touch it. And then the more and more you hear these conversations with people, you're like, hey man, why are dog people so fanatic about coming off of ultra processed, getting on minimally processed? But why does everybody say, it's just the cat, the damn cat? Wow. I just go to the grocery store. Why is it? Right. So what I love about cats so much is that they're like these mystical creatures. Like, everyone will always say, like, cats are just so mystic, right? Like, they're like these mystical, beautiful alien type of creatures that we know a lot about, and we're still learning so much about science. And they have these addictive personalities. You guys have these great hacks that you were mentioning, but I wanted to just touch super quick on some of the problems that people are going to have that you guys are going to address this week, right? And it's how manufacturers take advantage of today's cat and make it very difficult for you when you get inspired at the end of the week and you're like, I'm about to go minimally processed. And then all of a sudden you're hit with a wall and you're like, oh my God, my cat only wants to eat his Friskies and Whiskeys. He doesn't want to eat anything else. I just listened to the week. What's happening? So we were talking before. Do you remember we were talking before about like how not only the most addictive creatures, but then pet food manufacturers will try to create what's called the forever cat. They know that cats work on odor, right? Mm-hmm. And they heavily are driven by odor. Some of the things that I didn't realize that you guys were talking about was just temperature alone can affect a cat from eating. Look at this little statistic that I pulled out. This comes from the science journals. If increasing food temperature from 20 degrees Celsius, which is here in Canada, in the United States, that's 68 degrees Fahrenheit, to 40 degrees Celsius, which is 104 degrees Fahrenheit, can enhance food consumption for a cat up to 80%. That's just odor, right? That's just odor. Okay, well, now the pet food manufacturer knows that. So we were talking about, why does a cat, let me throw it at you guys. Let me be the interviewee for a second. Why does a cat flock normally more towards a lousy brand of ultra processed food than if I put down something minimally processed? Any one of you tackle that, because you guys are ninjas.
Well, it's is it you that calls them palatants, right? Like the Animal Digest, the crap that they spray on these foods. makes it, because our cats don't really, their taste buds are not like they, as you said, they lead with odor. They have like 200 million scent sensors in their nose. They are very, very driven by their nose. And so you make that food, that crappy food, smell good to them, and they're going to go for that over the healthiest food.
Absolutely. Palatability and scent enhancers. The American Chemical Society makes billions because pet food manufacturers will tell you that it's proprietary information. They know your cat, if they were to make ultra processed food, they make those dry pellets, Friskies, kibbles. Well, kibbles and bits would be in the dog realm, but like whiskeys and all the different like low economy brands of food, a cat would never eat it if it wasn't sprayed, right? So cadaverine and putrescine are two very popular chemicals that are sprayed with the food. They know that when you work with the American Chemical Agency, it's almost like working with the tobacco industry. When you have a cat hooked on a scent, it is very, very difficult to get that cat off the scent. I had sent you earlier, the incredible Dr. Karen Becker wrote an article in the Huffington Post years ago when I was a young boy and you guys were extremely young girls. You may have not even been born then in 2013, but Karen wrote an article for the Huffington Post. A study published in the veterinary behavior journals shows that cats consuming dry food, a brand that you put them on for 7 months or longer, it is almost impossible to try to get them off of the food. They're so addictive that this is just me geeking out in science. Cats become addicted to shapes. So these are studies that were done on cats and shapes. Look, they got discs, star shapes. Oh, look at you. You guys are so damn awesome when you do that. I get so excited. I almost peed my pants the fact that you're doing that. Disc shapes, star shapes, triangular shapes, like the shapes on the very end, like the Hill Science Diet. Cats are so addictive, and pet food manufacturers know this. And there's a reason in science why this happens. The cats, believe it or not, will prefer the disc shape or the star shape over any other shape. In fact, when the scientists turned around and they compared the disc shape to the star shape, cats will always go to the disc shape. Well, why is it that they're addicted to shapes? Scientists believe, they hypothesize, when a cat eats a mouse, it starts from the head and goes all the way down to the tail. Cats love the crunching effect, the crunching of a bone instinctually. They build these pieces, these shapes, with almost like these linear breaks. So when the cat bites into it, it breaks on this linear pathway, simulating the breaking of bones. And so scientists found that when a cat even just gets addicted to the shape, it becomes very difficult for them to switch. This week, when people hear all of this incredible information that's going to be coming their way, one obstacle is they're going to have scent enhancers. That's going to make it very difficult for them to come off. Thumbs up. Look at that. The second thing that they're going to start to face is the fact that the shapes can also become problematic for a cat. Temperature. We just talked about temperature, how temperature can be problematic for a cat. You guys have really great tips. And you told me about one of your cats and that you guys hung in for 6 months. Share that story with your audience. So people don't
it was
give up.
our food bear. What's interesting is that we had 5 cats at the time, and one of our oldest cat was 18 years old, and he had just been diagnosed with kidney disease. And I had already been studying. I had already started, I was following you guys. I was doing a ton of research. Dr. Lisa Pearson. I was trying to do all the research I could. And then when he got that diagnosis, I was like, it's time. We're going to switch. We're switching now. And he, at 18 years of age, was, when I offered him the raw food, he took to it immediately. I didn't offer it, I mixed it in with his wet food at the time. But within a week, he was good to go. But the youngest cat at that time, he was 7, was our Pooh Bear. He took 6 months to get him off of, and he was also obese, and it took him 6 months to get off of the kibble and onto a wet, and then to a fresh food diet.
Until the day that he left us, if you made a sound that sounded like a kibble bag,
he would come running.
And so it is challenging. I was so encouraged. One of the things that Jay found in her research was that study that was done in the UK about cats, if given the choice, over time will choose the food that is more nutritionally complete for them, even if it's flavored I think it was orange or something like that. So there is hope. It's not, it's almost impossible, right? I think that a lot of us pet parents will try once or twice. We wasted $7. We're done, right?
Right.
When it really is understanding this industry and the ways that pet food is manufactured to be very enticing to our cats,
and
helps us.
And to like what we were saying with Bryce and Kinsey today, like understand that it's not your fault. It is the pet food manufacturer's fault that your cat is now addicted to this, right? Like you don't have to be hard on yourself. You just have to understand. And now you can approach your cat a little differently, knowing that it's an addiction that you're dealing with. And they compare that to heroin for humans, right? So if like you understand that this is an addiction that your cat is dealing with, then you have more patience and getting them off of that diet and onto something better. But it has to start with us, right? Like we still have to be persistent with helping. Think of it as your brother or your son or your daughter, right? Like going through an addiction, a drug addiction, and you want to help them get off of it, but you don't just like slam them put them in a closet and throw food under the door and make them, that's not what's going to help. You have to kind of coach them along the way and be patient through the process. Yeah.
Adrian, I saw you jumping. I know you want to say something.
Well, I think, Pooh Bear was one of our greatest teachers, but really that whole point for anyone who's feeling roadblocked by this and they want to do better and they've tried once or twice already, understanding that I am the only choice that he has for a better food. He can't say, I want to lose weight. I want to feel better. I want to, when we took him off of kibble, he was a 26-pound big boy at the time. And he got down to 19 pounds just with that change in diet. And I think, I'm so sad we lost him earlier this year, but what a great teacher for all of us, really, that such big changes can come when we're in it to win it. It's not going to, for many of us, it's not going to be tomorrow that our cats are going to be like, oh, heck yeah, this fresh food is delicious. Yeah. It's going to take figuring out what temperature they like and what kind of textures. But there's so much science out there that is really encouraging and gives us the extra that we need to be patient with our cats.
Yep. And I also want to say back to the cost. I forgot to insert it earlier, but when we were talking about the cost, when it comes to cat parents, we also have to understand that when we're feeding a fresh food diet, we feed a lot less of that food than we have to feed when there's a lot of filler. Right. So, I mean, waste, right? So if we're feeding, when you're comparing cost, as you were saying, with the $5 bag or the $6 bag, if we're looking at fresh food, we also have to make that comparison when it comes to cost, whether you're doing it at home, whether you're just adding a little bit to the bowl, whether you're buying it from a pre-made manufacturer. That they're not going to need as much because all of that food is biologically available. Their bodies are able to actually utilize the nutrients in the food, whether instead of just wasting it out and getting those really stinky poos, that the fresh food really helps with the poops.
Listen, you guys, like, I love, it's a really important point that I love that you guys focus on, which is, during the Inside Scoop, when we had you on, you guys were like, persistence was a key word for you guys, right? Like 6 months. I mean, that's a long time. And the fact that you're willing to do that, to try to raise the longest, happiest, long-lived cat possible, is a testament to how incredible you guys are. And I hope it inspires the audience, because you've got such an exciting week that's coming up. And with all these hurdles that people could potentially face when they're, let's just get these hurdles out of the way right away. You're going to have a bunch of incredible veterinarians that are going to come on here that are going to be talking about not like the benefits of fresh food. I mean, this is easy. We could spend the entire podcast on talking about what you are about to expect when you come off of ultra processed foods, or even just a teaspoon of minimally processed food added to your diet, the potential benefits that are about to happen for your cat. Like, we could spend a year talking about it, right? But I'm very excited that that's kind of the first hurdle that a lot of people that are going to address, that you guys are going to knock out of the park, is persistence. I remember you guys were saying too that you would open up like a can of cat food, wet, moist, moisture rich, and animals that are addicted to dry food, just having the can in around the area when they eat. Like, what an incredible tip from you guys, right? I know you have a vault and a library of Facebook Lives where you guys have like just a herd of some of these tips, but there are vital tips where, I've had people reach out to me and DM me and say, man, I tried some of these tips and I got my cat to switch. Like, I swear to God, I had a woman here, in Canada, in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, who was able to transition her cat because of the tips that you guys have in your podcast that are just unbelievable. So in saying all of that, we do now, like, there's so many like additions and so many different things that you can do that you can add into the diet to make the diet better. Does it just have to be food? Are there supplements? Are there like omega-3 fatty acids? Are there things that are beneficial that you could add to the diet? Let's say maybe you say at this point in your life, hey man, I got no money. I can't level up on food, but like, could there be like supplements and things like that? So like maybe later on we could talk about those and address some of these quick things in science that people could do, because when you're on a budget, things can be really tough, but it's that addiction issue that, I sent you that picture of that cat. Royal Canin did that study where they were so addictive. Like, it's why it's a nightmare for scientists when they want to do research with cats, right? They're so addictive that they would put 2 bowls of food down for the cats. There, look at him right there. Like, look how pumped up he is to get ready to eat, right? But some of the challenges that they were having with the cats in these palatability testing was that people don't realize that like dogs and cats are kind of left-handed and right-handed. And I didn't know that. I was like, really? They can be left-handed or right-handed? And so they have traits and habits that if you put down 2 bowls of food and you're trying to gauge which one the cat likes better, their habits can get into the way. So in these studies and these tests, cats would flock to a certain bowl only because of habit, not because of choice, something that a pet parent might want to consider if you're putting 2 bowls of food down.
It's absolutely, I mean, it's awesome and nuts at the same time, isn't it?
Oh, but
Isn't it?
They are mystical little animals for sure.
All to the point. I love you so much. Your thirst for learning is so inspiring, and it is empowering us all over the world. I feel like we have to. I know we're running out of time.
I can't
You
believe.
have to go to the airport, but I want to talk a little bit about this. I want to talk about your books.
Yes.
For a minute. I know that for many people in our community, maybe they're just meeting you for the first time and they have no idea the amazing rabbit hole they are about to discover.
And I want to ask you, because there's 3 things that I want to discuss before you leave, and we'll do it briefly. But that you and Dr. Karen Becker wrote the Forever Dog book, which is now New York Times #1 best-selling book, twice over best-selling, which is absolutely amazing. And it's all about longevity and dogs specifically. Yeah, we've read it, and there's a lot of information in there that pertains to cats as well. But my question is, while you guys were traveling the world and interviewing scientists and experts from literally every aspect of the world, around
340 citations. Yes. Yes.
Get information on cats as well.
So, my passion goal is the Forever Cat, right? It was kind of like heartbreaking when, Karen was devastated because when Karen is pushing for the Forever Cat and the publicist is like, pet parents don't care. People will go above and beyond for the dogs, but people historically won't do that for the cats. We don't believe that, the cats want that. Cat parents want it. So, we did put out a petition and we didn't reach. It's shocking to me because I thought we were going to nail it out of the park. All the incredible 2.0 cat parents that come from the crazy cat lady community signed the hell out of it. We're trying to inspire a little bit more people, but when you're looking at research, it's really interesting because translational research is always, it's easy when you're in the animal space because a lot of the studies that are done are usually pertaining, they use a lot of rats and they try to transition it over to dogs and cats. There's a lot of cat and dog studies. I think it's very difficult today to talk about you'll always post a study about a dog or a cat, and then you'll always get that smart ass in the comment section. It's like, well, that's only done on like 12 cats. Talk to me when there's 1,000 cats that are tested on. It's like, nobody wants to test on 1,000 cats. Like nobody wants to test on 1,000 dogs. I know the studies are more humane today. Like usually it's like incline, like if you have like veterinarians and vet technicians, they're usually using their own animals in studies. So like, they're cats that are taken care of and they're owned, right? They have parents, right? But one of the challenges today with studies is we keep demanding more studies, but at the same time, we're testing on animals, for the love of God here, right? Like some animals are losing their lives to these studies. So we want to be careful here of like what we're actually asking for. But a lot of it is translational. We talked about there is information for cats, but there's not enough information for cats is what I'm trying to say. And then every time something comes out, like we were talking about this one earlier, like holy hell in controversy. If you want to light, I don't know if I even sent you this one, Jay. If you want to light the internet on fire, University of Guelph here in Canada did a study. There's a lot of longevity studies that are coming out. And one of the big ones that we posted in the Forever Dog that lit the internet on fire, I accidentally posted on Dr. Karen Becker's page. She got 10,000 death threats from all the dog moms in the world. It's not even our study. It's the Dog Aging Project. And the largest feeding frequency study ever to date, over 24,000 animals, found that dogs that were fed once a day suffered 9 less diseases. So there's 9 types of diseases that they did not get decreased the risk of. They lived longer and they were healthier. Okay, but does that translate over to cats? Well, guess what? The University of Guelph did the same study. Cats are so addictive, again, when we go back to the addiction studies, that even Royal Canin themselves found that if you put food out for a bowl, and I'm sure you guys are going to have these conversations, this is in the Forever Dog, this is pertaining to longevity. But when you put out a bowl of food for a cat, Royal Canin found, and I know I keep referencing them because they're the only ones that are putting the money out there in research, but they found that the cat will go up to the bowl 20 times a day. 20 times a day feeding frequency for a cat, given the opportunity. And then when they become addicted to it, because you started at a young age and the cat's been going to the bowl 20 times a day, have fun switching the cat over to like raw food and only feeding them once or twice a day. Your cat will kill you.
That cat will kill you.
About
hangry.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Talk about it. Yeah. It's these habits that you set with your cat are really important, right? Like I know that we feed out of love. I was reading so many studies based upon people that were trying to do this, and it ruined the relationships between people and cats because the cats were already addicted to 20. People read the research. Research comes out that shows that feeding cats once a day had higher post-meal levels of 3 key appetite regulating hormones, suggesting they were more satisfied and they were healthier. Cats that only eat 1 meal a day had a larger increase in blood amino acids, meaning more protein was available to build muscle and other important proteins. So there was all of this research that came out of the University of Guelph showing that cats that were fed once a day were healthier. And guess what? People tried it when they had cats eating 20 times a day. And guess what? It ruined relationships within the home, right? So this all comes back to longevity research with cats. So we have science, but it takes brilliant people like you two to translate it over to the 1.0 pet parent, so they don't go running right away and read research like that and say, I'm going to feed my cat once a day now.
Right.
Because then they end up hating science, they end up hating research, and they end up hating everything that we talked about today because slow and steady wins the race, right?
Yes.
I'm sorry I hijacked that question pertaining to
I love it.
cat
And I
longevity.
also just want to say to everyone here that the link to sign that petition is in the description right now. And we are going to get those signatures. Even if we have to write the book ourselves, we're going to get that. We would much prefer you did it.
And the good doctor. Yes.
And the good doctor.
Real quick though, before you have to go, I know we have already pre-ordered our copy. We are so excited.
There is a new book coming, however, that does involve cats. And so we need because you guys are so brilliant with all of your research and everything that you guys have done and your years and years of just being in this field. We need everyone to know about the new book coming out and how cats are included in this book.
Okay, this was important, right? This is really important for Karen. Karen's the biggest cat lover. We both love cats, but Karen's the biggest cat lover in the entire world. Karen actually refused to write the book if she couldn't get cat into it. That's what caused the big fight with the publishing house, right? If you're ever going to put a book out and you're an author listening, publishing houses will tell you, do not do a dog and cat book together because the audience is not receptive to it. I don't know who made up that statistic. We wanted to prove them wrong and shatter that statistic, but it still says, obviously we lost, because it still says Forever Dog Life on the damn book, even though we've got some cat in it. We'd love to have way more cat in it, but it's always a battle between you and the publishing house. The good news is this time around, we wanted to celebrate food, but foods from all over the world. So the cover, we've talked about this before. I don't want to hijack your incredible podcast pending on the cover, but the reason why it looks the way it does is because it's supposed to celebrate food from all different categories, whether you feed minimally processed, whether you feed processed, whether you feed ultra processed, whether you that's including like if you were doing raw, lightly cooked, freeze dried. There's something there for everybody and how to level up on their food for their dogs and cats. For the very first time, we have board certified veterinary nutritionists, pet food formulators, microbiologists. You might be asking me why microbiologists. I hope you ask me why microbiologists, because I'd love to answer the question. But we're bringing a whole bunch of people into this. Did one of you say why microbiologists?
Yes.
Well, I'm so glad you asked me why microbiologists. We wanted to bring in microbiology because that is going to be the way of the future. I just posted a study that the pet food industry did. This time it was interesting. They did it on roosters. They didn't want to test on dogs and cats. Still terrible to test on roosters. But if you look at the study, I posted it online, they were showing that they believe feeding dogs and cats a higher level, which now we have research. So if somebody says, hey man, my vet says there's no science. Oh, there's so much science. The most recent one is published on my page that shows that, when you feed minimally processed foods like raw, lightly cooked, freeze dried, things that don't require an extruder, better amino acid digestibility, overall health markers are better. The metabolization of amino acids, it's endless, right? But what we're seeing now is microbiology now is stepping up to the plate and showing the importance of 2.0 pet parents. Now, this is for you 2.0 pet parents that are in the comment section. Very important, right? Animal Biome just recently came out with a study. I had sent it to you earlier today, Jay, and it floored you. It also floored me too, right? So for the very first time, Animal Biome, and shout out to Chief Science Officer Dr. Holly Gantz, they've just put together the Kitty Microbiome Project, defining the healthy fecal core microbiome in pet domestic cats. This is one of the largest citizen science projects of its kind. But guess what they found out? They found out that people that were feeding minimally processed foods like raw foods and so on and so forth, and we talked about this earlier, the pet food industry pulled this out. It pissed off the people at Animal Biome because of the way they pulled out the information, but it says that cats fed kibble had a slightly but significantly greater amount of beneficial core bacteria compared to cats fed raw food. Okay, that's shocking, right? Because this whole damn podcast, we're talking about feeding minimally processed foods. Why did this happen? Why did they find that some of these cats that were fed raw foods didn't have such a great microbiome compared to kibble? Because of fiber, because of prebiotics. Remember earlier, I think it was, apologies, I think it's Blue Jay 64 if I got the number wrong, was talking about dry pet or cellulose, right? See, the pet food manufacturer knows. They know how critical fiber is. When we put this book together, the longevity scientists around the planet will all tell you the more diverse your microbiome, your cat's microbiome, your dog's microbiome, the longer you'll live, the better the health markers you will have when you diversify your gut microbiome. But 2.0 feeders who are listening to this, the argument is there's not enough fiber. People are going just meat, bone, organ, veterinarians disappointed now in the diet, or you're buying from a pet food manufacturer who doesn't want to put too much fiber into the diet because their fear is if they load it with veg up, the cat won't eat it anymore. Everybody's in fear of that. Same thing in the dog world, right? Everybody's hovering around 2 to 5% veg content because as a pet food manufacturer, like if I put any more, your cat might not eat my food. Yeah. So it's really important that you're diversifying your diet, right? Again, I keep referencing ultra-processed pet food manufacturers, but I sent you this diet because look how beneficial it is. Effects of diet and body composition on the lifespan in aging cats. A 9-year study found. I tried to print off this chart, but it doesn't work. It's colorful. It's lousy. It's terrible. But each one of these bars is bless you. Each one of these bars is showing. Because it's my science. It's like it can make you sneeze. Each one of these bars shows that when there was an increase, so they fed a standard diet, average cat lived to be 14.7 years. They added a little bit of antioxidants and vitamin E. They got 15.1 years. They lived a little longer. Guess what? When they added prebiotic to it, the cats lived on average, just on average with ultra processed food over a year longer. Do you know what they used in it? They said that was so proprietary. Can you tell I had my props ready?
Yeah.
Chicory root. Just random chicory root added into the diet with some omega-3. Those cats lived on average 1 year longer. Not because there's anything ultra magical about chicory root, but it's because it has one of the highest levels of inulin, which is prebiotic. And so science is finding that cats are lacking in prebiotic, meaning that selection, that variation in fiber. Fiber is so important. I'm so excited when Emma comes on because she's going to smash out probably some beneficial fiber that you could be adding to your cat's diet. So if you can't even afford to change your cat's diet and you have to feed ultra processed food, I get it because you're broke. There's some incredible additions, teaspoons of fiber that you can add into your cat's diet, according to science, that can get them to live longer. And that's one of the premises of this new book that's coming out that we really wanted to highlight for cat parents. Look at all the incredible sources of fiber that you can add into the diet that will diversify the gut microbiome, and your cat will live a little longer. Shout out to Beth. Love the props always, Rodney. I love you, Beth. Thank you. So I
know you always have the best props.
I wish I had better props, man. I
swear, when we come to Nova Scotia, we're gonna have like so much fun. I'm gonna have to get like an extra day in just so we can like
we'll make some of the recipes when you guys come here. We'll put some of the recipes together. We'll smash out some science. Listen, I'm just going to show it, but I'm not going to talk about it. When you guys come down here, we're going to talk about this magical sprinkle addition that scientists in Japan are putting on food. And they say that when you're you're so good. Japanese scientists say that this food category, the molecular structure of this family, when it hits that fifth sense in that cat, that umami receptor, it is the most magical taste in the world for cats. And potentially, if cats are struggling to switch off of a diet, or if they just even won't eat, boom, a sprinkle of this magical food, they say, works every time. But that's a story for another time. Maybe you guys will talk about it this week and I'll be excited.
Yeah, but I mean, that's exactly what I was thinking when you were talking about spraying like the food, the palatants and things that they put on cat food. I was thinking we just need to come up with an umami, something that everybody puts on the healthier foods that also makes them really want it. But you keep interrupting me because I got to say, when it comes to, so there's also a link to pre-order the book.
You just got in trouble.
When it comes to this book, The Forever Dog Life, I don't want you to judge a book by its cover for all of you guys.
Although this cover is extraordinary, and if you guys were a part of Inside
Homer
into this amazing photo shoot,
but I want you to think of it.
Oh, I gotta take. Wait, hold on. I gotta get my cell phone. I gotta take a picture of this and send it to Karen.
Forever Cat Life, because there is so much valuable information in here for cat people too. So I know that like us as cat people, we're like, well, it's a dog book. Why would I buy a dog book? I don't have dogs. I just have cats. So I want you to think of it, think of it like this. Instead of as the Forever Dog Life, think of it as the Forever Cat Life, and pre-order your book. Link is in the description.
Also in the description is that petition, you guys. Let's sign it so that we can Forever cat book. Let's go. I
Yes.
as well was heartbroken when I heard that the publishers were like, cat people don't care. They're not going to sign. There's not going to be enough. And 2 years, and here we are. Let's get it. Let's get it going on.
You guys should have called us sooner.
I also want to give a shout out to the Inside Scoop. For some of you here may be a part of the Inside Scoop. Can you share with everybody?
Yeah.
It's the best $10 we ever spend every month. Share a little bit for anyone who's like, where can I
learn more?
So it's definitely a magical place. 2019, Mark Zuckerberg invited me to Facebook to give a talk on how, he invited myself and Dr. Becker to Facebook on how we were able to grow a community, right? A strong community of pet parents that care about longevity, health, and so on and so forth. And so the idea that they had over at Facebook, because I didn't know that Zuckerberg and their team were watching all of our videos and just trying to learn because they all got pets, right? They were like, what if we could create you a space like a vet office where you could bring the world's top veterinarians, scientists, longevity experts, trainers, behaviorists, the crazy cat ladies, and people could come into that office. It's like you're visiting your veterinarian and ask questions and so on and so forth, bringing on board certified veterinary oncologists, board certified veterinary dentists, you name it. What would normally cost people like zillions and zillions of dollars, we build you a platform, a troll-free zone that we manage ourselves. So it's a partnership between Facebook, Google, and Apple. We do no charging. There is a subscription fee, but it goes through to Facebook. And we'll build you this platform where every single week you guys will come on and you'll bring the world's greatest for that 2.0 pet parent, for that person that has that thirst that needs to learn more, or for somebody who's super desperate that needs more information. So I've been very blessed that people like yourselves not only support us, but you're also experts that come in and just give incredible advice. And when you come to Nova Scotia, we're probably going to rock out a whole bunch of those episodes, but it's just a place for where people might be looking for more knowledge. But I got to say, man, you guys knock it out of the park. It's the content that you guys put out every week. When we spoke last time, it was, I don't know if you guys dropped it down a bit, but it was 5 lives a week between all your platforms. Are you guys still knocking out that insane number?
Yeah, no, we're
down a few.
Yeah, we're down quite a few.
That was crazy.
We have 4. We have 4 on Mondays, and instead of every night of the week, we just
that's still insane.
Yeah, but it's awesome. I mean, it is a really beautiful community. The cat community has been like so. They're so kind and they're so loving and understanding, and there's empathetic. There's so many people that are in rescue and so many people in TNR.
If you ever
can I say one more thing that just gives me goosebumps? The fact that you guys brought out incredible clean products for pet parents, for cat parents, I got goosebumps. Like that's the it's not there. No one has it. You guys bring it out. And you guys put out this incredible line of products that people are still raving about, by the way, in the Inside Scoop. Like, it's like, if you go into the comment section and you read about it. So thank you for providing pet parents with clean products that we need, because there is such a lack of it in this space. Like, if you come to my hometown or you come to Canada here, you'll die because of how, the CFIA, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, has they don't look at the products. They don't care about the products. They don't follow them. And then you guys now are putting something out there that I know that it's trusted and it's a brand. So I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, because we need more people like you that's giving people the option at least to be able to find something. So thank you for that too. I didn't get a chance to say that last time.
You're freaking amazing. People are like just throwing up in the comments now because we just keep doting.
No, it's true. It's a love fest, because Canada loves you guys. I love you guys. Everybody in the comment loves you guys. You have an incredible community. I'm watching the comments and my heart is lit up, because you have people supporting each other in the comment section. You have community members supporting each other. You have conversations within there that people are bettering each other, and it's incredible, man. You guys have an awesome audience. So
we're very blessed.
Yeah, we're super blessed.
If you ever have any doubts in this world, this cat community helps us all understand we definitely have more in common
than we have in conflict.
Yeah. And I'm so grateful for your time.
Yes.
This has just been the most exciting. Earlier, before we were coming on, I was so excited I could feel my arms. I'm just so grateful to you. And I know I speak for everyone in our community, for the way that you're able to share information and the way that you're able to inspire us to be more empowered is really an incredible experience. So thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you. Listen, I'm so excited that I got to come on the podcast. I finally made it onto the Crazy Cat Lady show. I hope I get invited again. Look at all of these studies that I didn't get to talk about this time, but next time. But next time you guys will come here and we'll bang out a whole bunch of podcasts. And shout out to everybody in the comment section. You guys are incredible. And thank you for having me. And I got to go pick up B. Adams now from the airport because we got work to do.
Yeah.
Please give her a hug from us.
Yes.
Thank you again so much.
And thank you guys so much. And thank you for everybody that joined. We will be joined by none other than Dr. Judy Morgan tomorrow night to discuss all the fears. She is going to really help us better ease those fears. She's going to help us better understand why we don't need to be scared in switching our cats to a better diet. So do join us same time, same place right here. Thank you, Rodney. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
and thank you everyone that joined. Mwah.
We'll see you guys soon.
So long, everybody.